I didn't want to be invisible because I actually had a huge group of friends, you know? So when people are like, oh, I understand what you're going through, bitch, no, you don't understand what I'm going through because you're actually popular and I'm your shadow. You know, all the judgment, all the abuse, all the horridness, all the trauma, you better be ready for it, you know? And it's like a daily ordeal from having to go through being really happy to being really sad and happy and sad. And, you know, religion is very subjective. Like you make it what you want it to be, basically. Their voices are inside of us telling us that we're not worth it.
Okay, so I am joined today by the fantastic, wonderful Harnaam Kaur. A little bit of background. She goes by many titles. She is a hyphenated artist, a social media influencer. She models. She is a speaker that will definitely motivate you to explore yourself on to your most authentic levels. She's British, so everything you hear her say comes with that accent, and we just, we love that. I don't remember the first time I crossed paths with your stuff, but I've definitely seen an evolution. I've definitely seen an evolution. You are so punk rock, and I love it. I love it on so many levels, and I feel like the spirit that you embody, that hasn't changed. That is just getting revealed more. It's just kind of like you're peeling away the layers that were covering it up. And I think, for those listening, I think at the age of 12, you started. I don't know the name of the condition.
Polycystic ovary syndrome.
Yes,
Yeah, tongue
PCOS.
twister. Yeah, PCOS. I just tend to say PCOS. It's such a tongue twister. But no, it was actually, it goes a little bit further back from that because I was actually 11. By the way, I talk really openly. I talk about absolutely everything. So, I do talk about periods and things like that. So when I, went through puberty, I went through puberty really young.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started getting like hair up here. It's actually really funny because this here doesn't shock me as much as this does, which is really weird.
Like the mustache shocks you more than the beard. Okay.
Because I look in the mirror and I'm like, damn girl, you actually have a mustache. But then it's like, you do know you actually have a beard as well. It's just really funny how my mind works that way. But yeah, I started growing like facial hair, like hair up here and stuff. I actually didn't notice it. It was only when I was sort of bullied or like when certain taunts came, I remember going home and thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't normal because you're being taunted for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like my body just changed, I went through puberty and, you start getting your periods. I went through hella pain with that. I was always like in and out of the hospital. And then for some odd reason, I started getting like hair just like around my sort of throat area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, I was bullied like horrendously. Like I talk about it. I talk about it so the words come out, but I don't like thinking about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
I don't like to visualize it. I can talk to you about it for hours, but I don't like to visualize it because if I visualize it, you sort of relive it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was bullied like horrendously, and I remember having like various ultrasound scans, blood tests done, and the doctor was like, "You have polycystic ovary syndrome," and when you hear that and you're so young, like I was around 12 or 13, I believe. And when you hear that, you think like no celeb out there was talking about it, nothing on TV. I wasn't like on the internet. So there was no means for me to sort of be like Google PCOS. I remember the nurse at my school did that and she told me about it. And I realized that, I'm not actually dying of a rare disease, which I thought I was. That 1 in 5 people with ovaries actually have this condition. So it's not as rare as you think it is.
Okay.
And
but it manifests in different ways.
Oh, 100%. So it's, I have like an imbalance of hormones, or I have cysts in my ovaries. that carry a certain hormone which basically alters the way that I look, and it can impact things like you can get diabetes, a lot of weight gain or a lot of weight loss, infertility, irregular periods, diabetes, cardiovascular issues, facial hair, or like bodily hair. I don't like to use the word excess because something that my body sort of naturally produces, I wouldn't call it excess, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. But what I decide to do with it is my own right to,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like not only does it sort of impact you physically, it impacts you like your quality of life, like how do you see yourself? Like, are you prioritizing self-care? It impacts your mental health too. And that's exactly what it did.
I mean, you were, we're not talking about now or even the last, 5, 6, 7 years where, the movement for body positivity, the
Mm,
movement for gender identity, these movements have really, found amplification. Like we're talking about you're 11, 12, like you're super young, you're super impressionable. Um, you're being bullied, it's got to be ridiculously hard. Um, and at the same time, from what I understand, I believe you tried to, remove the hair at one point, but then eventually, no, you didn't.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it got to the point where it was like, you go through, bullying, and, your mental health is so like messed up.
Hmm.
So what do? Like, you change, right? You
Yep.
try and change when you're backed up into a corner, your hands are up, there's no other way for you to sort of stop the bullying. So in my head, it was like, okay, your body is the reason to why you're getting bullied. Let's change something,
Yes.
your beard is because, you're getting bullied because of your beard. Let's get rid of it. So I started tweezing, waxing, shaving, threading, using various hair removal creams, bleach as well. Um, and where like the hair was just around like my throat area here,
Yeah.
it spread. And when I mean spread, I mean look at it. Like it came
Yeah.
back darker, thicker, longer. I mean, hey, I've even got a Guinness World Record, for my beard. Like this is how
Yeah.
mind-boggling this journey is. It's crazy.
What record do you have? What's the
So
record?
I'm the youngest woman with a full beard.
Mm,
So like a full
for
beard
real.
from like
Wow.
here, like it connects and everything, like a
Okay.
natural line. Like I don't even shape up. So a lot of men get jealous that they spend money and I don't have to.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of men
Okay.
are like, oh, you must trim. Like, look how neat that. Like, I was like, boy, I don't do anything. They're like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get a neat line? I said, well, you need to grow a pair of boobs. That's how you get a neat line.
So let me ask you this. So, and again, it's completely understandable. I mean, I went through bullying. I think a lot of people listening went through bullying for different reasons, and it
Yeah.
sucks. It sucks to feel like you don't belong, and all you want to do, I think, it's especially when you're younger, is you just want to be invisible. Like you just don't want to be noticed. You just don't want people to. You don't want to stand out. You don't want the attention, especially when it's for all these reasons. Um,
Yeah.
but at such a young age, was there a moment that made you decide like, yo, fuck this, like this is who I am? Like what was that? Was it a specific moment? Was it a gradual thing?
No, 100%. I think, like I said, you're backed up against a wall, I'm shaving, I'm going through. I mean, Humble, I don't know if you've ever had your arm waxed, right? But you
I have not had my arms waxed.
boy, you stick that hot wax on your arm, put that bloody paper thing there,
Yeah.
and go, fam, I will tell you, you will scream. So
Mm,
imagine now you are a young 12-year-old person,
yeah.
and that your skin is so sensitive around here, right?
Yeah.
Not only are you dealing with bullying, you're dealing with a medical condition that you have no idea about, and then you have to go to a beauty parlor, sit there, and you have hot wax, you
Mm,
know flipping plastered on your face. That strip goes on, she taunts your skin, and she strips off that paper. I let out so many shrieks. I told them, I was like, can you put me under? I begged them
wow.
to put me on gas, and I begged them. I don't bloody know, this is the first time that I went. Like, it was horrible. And then I realized, girl, you're going to go through this twice a week. And when I'm not waxing my face twice a week, it was creams, it was shaving, it was other things as well.
Mhm.
Like that growth was so like it came back so quick. And then I went to school and they saw that, oh, her mom shaved her face. Now she is a boy because she's shaving. So it was like, okay, well, I'm trying to change myself for you guys, so for the approval of you.
Mm.
That's what it was. I didn't want to be invisible because I actually had a huge group of friends.
Mm.
So when people are like, oh, I understand what you're going through, bitch, no, you don't understand what I'm going through because you're actually popular and I'm your shadow. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm living in your shadow, right?
Yeah.
Um, I tried so many things and, I started hating my body because my body was the reason to why I was being bullied.
Yeah.
You start hating yourself, you look in the mirror, like this is happening to you because of this, you're being
Mm.
bullied, you're being targeted, you're going through abuse because of this. You start hating your body. And I went through, like huge trigger warning, but I really speak openly about this because a lot of people go through this and I don't want it to be like a taboo subject. And I don't want people to feel like, that others don't go through this, but I did start harming myself. I
Mm.
did start punishing my body. I did start, like real self-hate, humble, real self-hate to the point I was like self-harming's not even doing anything.
Yeah.
It's not even doing anything because I'm still being bullied. I thought, you know what, I'm ready to go in it. Like I'm just ready to go. I'm
It
ready to.
went that far, eh?
Oh, it went so far, and it's so fucked up right now, yeah, because those I have like a deep psychological like trauma like that I went
Mhm.
through. When you go through so much trauma, it lives inside, and it sticks with you. And it's not something, I don't even think I want to heal from it because it's such a norm to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's such a norm. I don't even think I want to. I'm so used to dealing with it myself that it's just it's like having an arm. It's so normal to me.
Yeah.
um but when you go through such hardships, like even now, like when I go through hardships, my mind triggers back to
Back
those
to that.
dark times, and
Mm.
my mind start shouting out suicide, 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 kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, like
Mhm.
that's how deeply rooted it is inside me.
Mm.
um but yeah, it went that far. It went that far as, let's just end it all. Like there's nothing that you can do. There's no space in this world for you. You've got no value. You're not worth anything.
And how old are you at this time?
Oh, I was 15, 16.
15, 16. Okay.
Yeah, 15, 16. Now imagine that. Like you go to school 8:45 in the morning, 3:15 p.m., Monday to Friday, from the start of an academic year to the end of an academic year. Boy, someone can like say something to another person on the street, just one taunt, right? And it will live with them. So
Yes.
imagine having to go through that day in, day out from the start of a school period to an end of a school period. That shit fucked me up real
Mhm.
bad. Um, my turning point was actually being suicidal, because when you've hit rock bottom, right, you can
Yeah.
either get up, and like that's such a hitting rock bottom is such a blessing, right? And no one says that. No one says that. Hitting rock bottom is such a blessing because it really tests your inner strength, right?
Mm.
Because you can either get back up and think, do you know what? I'm at now that I've hit rock bottom, I'm at zero. I can either like pick myself up and rebuild my life the way I want to, or I can stay there. It's a real test of strength.
Yeah.
And I hit rock bottom. I thought, you know what, fuck it. Like fuck all of them. Like honestly, like I'm a 15, 16-year-old girl, and I'm having to deal with life as an adult,
Yeah.
right? I was like, fuck him. Honestly, the amount of fingers that I threw up to the world, I was like, fuck it all. I
Mm.
can't deal with it. And that thought, like your thoughts are very powerful.
Yeah.
Like what you manifest your thoughts into, your energy into, like that's what will sort of flourish. And
Yeah.
I like words are very powerful, thoughts are very powerful. And I remember my thoughts being so negative. I thought, why don't you change that? Because the bullies are out there going to the cinema, they're socializing, they're popular, and you're here suicidal. You want to end it, or your life hasn't even started, right? You're about to kill off the person that you're yet to become. You're
Yeah.
about to kill off the person that you're yet to know and understand and accept. You're going to kill a person off that you haven't even met yet, right? I look back now at that young girl that wanted to kill herself. I'm like, girl, I'm so happy you survived.
Yeah.
Because look at you now, honestly. And I don't even say that with ego. I say with the sense of, I am so proud. I am so proud because everything that I do, it's like, what's your intention behind it? And for me, it's always to add value. It's always to add value to people, to society, and talk about my story, show people that they're not alone, help people sort of, understand life, help them heal and do something.
Yeah, and it sounds like I know J.K. Rowling's, she said that in that famous commencement speech. She was like, rock bottom was that foundation I built myself upon. Like when you hit that, and when I was at my lowest, I remember that was the quote that really helped me. Where you're like, look, it I think now I do believe even when we feel like we hit rock bottom, there's still options for it to get worse. But I do understand this idea where you're like, okay, it everything I feared, everything that I'm experiencing, that's all happened, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still standing. I'm here. Yes, this option to press the proverbial reset button or the power down button, you know
Mm-hmm.
has been put in front of me, and I'm seriously considering it. But what you said, I think, is so beautiful. It's honoring the community of who you are, every version of you. There's a new version of you that's going to be existing for all these years, and it's about honoring them. And it's kind of like realizing that, like, shit, no one's going to come to save the day besides me. There's nobody
100%.
here to, yeah, there's no one here to be that hero, to be that role model, to be that person that knows who I really am, and what it is. And I think that's the part that's, I think, is super interesting for me, because I feel like, I think when I first came across you, and I want to ask you about this as well, even from like the Sikhi perspective, because I feel like, you grew up within the community, and I'm sure within the population of Punjabis and Sikhs that you were around, there was various opinions. Some were probably, uh, you know, negative. Some were probably even on some twisted positive. Um, and I feel like, there could have easily been this pseudo safe space that you could have found within that, because, depending on the type of groups, the different
Yeah.
sects, the different beliefs that, different people in Sikhi have, it can really, take you in different directions. And I feel like when I first crossed paths with you, I saw a little bit of that. And that's not what I see now in front of me. You know what I mean? With the nose rings and the tattoos, and the swag. It's a completely different energy. It's
100%. And
talk
it
about
was,
that.
I mean, can we hit on like Sikhi and the community, because that's a whole other thing I actually wanted to discuss with you as well, because it's really important, and it's really interesting, because again, like you have a bug, you have a beard, you have tattoos, you got mad swag, and I've got sort of something different in me as well, that's away from sort of the norm within our culture. So I wanted to actually converse with you about your experiences and compare it to my experiences as well.
Yeah,
So
completely.
yeah, I mean, but I would like to go back a little bit, about like the changing point that I had, so
Yeah,
after I finished year 11, I was 16 years old, and we had a summer break.
yeah.
So we had 6 weeks off school, and I decided, you know what, you're actually going to grow out this beard, and see how it suits you, because you've lived by trying to conform. Well, let's actually try living by, your rules now.
Hmm.
I remember when sixth form started, which is year 12 and 13. Um, I started year 12 on a mad high, I'm talking about emotional high,
Yeah,
you know, emotional high. I was so pumped because, I had adorned my crown, My beard was out. I thought, you know what, this is the new me now. I'm so pumped. And I remember as the day started, like that just declined, that declined. And I
Mm.
remember going home thinking, do you know what, girl, like if you want to be the niche in society, you want to look like this, you want to look different, you want to own it, well, you better be ready for, excuse me, you better be ready for everything that this world has to throw at you, all the judgment, all the abuse, all the horridness, all the trauma. You better be ready for it,
Yeah.
and it was like a daily ordeal from having to go through being really happy to being really sad and happy and sad, and then you enter the adult world and you think that adults are going to be more accepting and that
Yeah.
they'll have like a different sort of mentality, but God, no.
Hell no.
Oh,
Hell no.
no.
Adults are just kids that don't have parents to check them. You know what I mean?
I mean, when it comes to like kids and stuff, their inquisitive nature comes from innocence.
Yeah.
I remember
They don't have a
once,
filter. It's different. Yeah.
I love it though, because it comes from innocence. It comes from a space of, this is something different that I've never seen before. I want to question it. And I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to question it without a flipping filter.
Yeah.
So I remember I had a question. This one young girl came up to me. She was like, oh, but you're a girl and you have a beard, but my mummy doesn't have a beard and my daddy does. And, I get questions like that. And it's really cute, but, and then, I entered the adult world thinking it would be better, hoping it would be better. Oh, I was not ready for it, boy. I was
Yeah.
not ready for it. No one ever prepares you for something like that, especially when you're, first of all, a minority and you look different. No one really prepares you. And I felt like I had sort of traveled into a flipping jungle. So when I was looking for like jobs and stuff, like what employer is going to employ someone that looks like me? No one was that sort of open-minded to be like, do you know what, like we'll give you a job. 2014 hit, and this one interviewer was just like a journalist, sorry, was like, oh, you seem really interesting, can I like interview you? I thought, chalo bille baithe hain, I'm bloody free, I ain't got nothing to do, I ain't got a job. Right. So I remember just going to like the local Starbucks and she sat down with like a notepad and a pen and she was just asking me questions. I thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
She put that story out on the internet. I wasn't all that big on the internet, but that story went viral.
Mm.
The first ever story, 2014. And when you spoke about like the difference of how I was back then in regards to religion and how I am now,
Yeah.
I started slowly sort of coming away from religion at that point.
Yeah.
I had gone through a very bad engagement to a Singh who was Amritari, who was very abusive. And I left him like 2 months before we were supposed to get married.
And so just, I want to press pause real quick, just for context, because I mean, I'm loving that we're having this conversation, but I want to honor all our non-Punjabi listeners.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, we can always throw up Punjabi words at each other because we're chatting like we're in a room together, but obviously I do have some non-Punjabi listeners. So like an Amritari thing would be like, a what some people consider a baptized Sikh, there's
Yeah.
different interpretations, but in the mainstream belief of Sikhi, there is a form of initiation and baptism, and that's a whole other conversation. But so Harnaam's talking about being engaged to a guy who is initiated under that, and with that comes expectations, rules, identity, and a whole other conversation. Continue.
Yeah.
So I just want to give context sometimes. I had a conversation with somebody from my city and he was mentioning so many local things. I had to like keep pausing just to explain those for my listeners.
No, perfect. Yeah, so like when that happened, I went through a lot of trauma, and in my head, the people, I remember going to someone actually who was themselves a devout Sikh.
Yeah.
And I said to them, like, this person that I'm supposed to be getting married to is causing me so much hassle, sending me so much abuse. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my options are. And that person, and now this still lives me, that person turned around and said to me that Pati is Parameshwar, so your husband is your God, right?
Mm. And that's a lot more culture than faith right there. That's more like that's not a part of the philosophy of Sikhi. That's something that comes from like the culture of being Punjabi and the patriarchal bullshit that comes with that.
I'm laughing because I was like, Ben Jalakia.
I'm not translating that. I'm not translating that. Just fuck it. You don't know what
Oh
that means.
no,
Don't say
I'm
it out
honest.
loud.
I've got no filter. We're talking about real life here.
No,
Like people,
no. I'm talking. I'm by all means. I'm not. I'm not. I'm just not translating it because I'm just. I don't want to get in trouble.
no,
But
that's fine. No, that's fine. People who know.
yeah,
Um,
if you know, you know.
if you know, you know. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like honestly, I don't have a filter. You go through life in it. You go through life conforming for people, and it's like I'm just like I've got no shame. I will say all sort of thing in it.
I love
Um,
it. I love it. Keep going.
but yeah, so I ended up staying with him, sticking with him, saying Satabachan, which means, whatever you're saying is true, even though it was abusive and things like that. 2 months before we were supposed to get married, I thought, do you know what? Just stay where you are. I'm okay over here. You can take this, and I'm gonna be on my way because I'm not. When you get cinders in a fire,
Yeah.
like the little sparks of
Yeah.
you stick oil on it, what happens? Psh,
Boom.
in
Yeah.
it. That was me, boy. That was me. And from there, it was such a revolutionary moment what happened to me at that point,
Mm.
because I started etching away. I stopped talking to a lot of, religious people that were giving me bad advice. I saw a lot of hypocrisy. But one talk that that really just stripped me away. And I mean no offense to anyone, and I don't mean this to sort of hurt anyone. But again, people change, things change, emotions change, feelings change, journeys change. And I remember listening to a talk online. It's in two parts, by Wayne Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
God rest his soul. He's passed on now, and he spoke a lot about us as people, where we've come from, intentions, the power of intention, law of attraction, our souls. I felt so bound down by religion and its rules and regulations. That talk blew me out of the water,
Mm.
because when I listened to it, I sat myself down and I was like, bitch, you're going to understand who you are right now. In it. Now you better see. People are so afraid of understanding their true selves because so much can come out of that. People aren't ready to
Yes.
face themselves. I was ready and I hit life. 100 miles per hour, boy.
Yeah.
I was like, do you know what? I'm ready for this now. I'm ready for life. Bring it on. Absolutely bring it on.
It's so interesting you say that. Like, you're absolutely right. People are not ready um, to face their real self. But I think the big thing that I've been noticing is people do not understand how expensive it is not
Yeah.
to not live your authentic self. What we may not realize it, but we don't understand the amount of choices, the things that we do to really medicate ourselves from the fact that we won't be who we are meant to be. And I'm not even trying to say this as some like pie in the sky stuff. I'm talking about like every single person listening to this right now. They know who they are, or they have a glimpse of it, or they know the direction.
Yeah.
They can see what's beneath the surface. They can see who's behind the masks, no matter how many masks they're wearing. And it's scary as fuck. I know it's scary as fuck. I'm no different in terms of, and it's an endless journey. You're continually peeling off these layers, being like, okay, wait, first it's the cage that I was put in, which was my culture and my religion and expectations of what it means to be a girl, or what it means to be a woman, or what it means to be normal. And then you're like, yo, fuck all this, and you break all those fences. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, there's a whole new set of fences, and there's
Oh,
nobody to blame because now these fences are inside me. Like I built these fences, and it's a
100%.
never ending journey. But we have to keep going, because if you don't, this is where a lot of the destructive behavior comes from. Because it's like, we don't. The happiest guy I know, the happiest human being that I know, he is happy because he's at peace. He's not happy because he lives a pleasureful life.
Yeah.
He he has this he has a life of no need. Like, and he's never read any deep books. He doesn't meditate. He doesn't, but he also doesn't have social media. And he lives such a simple, cool, boring life, and he's happy with it. He literally is happy with it. And he's gone through the mud himself. And I just love what you said about, like, you had this, first you had this moment of realizing that, like, yo, all these adjustments I'm going to make, altering myself to appease everybody else, is
Hmm.
going to have to be a forever thing.
Because it's easy though, isn't it? It's easy to put our shit on other people.
Yeah,
Again, like we're not
yeah,
ready to understand who we are, so we'd rather take on other people's opinions of us, and that manifests either in a positive way or a negative way. You know, it
yeah,
becomes our inner voice. You know, we start every time we hit rock bottom, their voices are inside of us telling us that we're not worth
yes,
it. You know,
yes,
again,
yes.
it takes real strength to sit down and try and figure out who you are. You know, it's funny though, Humble, because as soon as we match with someone on Tinder, we want to meet them and get to know them. But when was the last time you did that for yourself? You know, when was the
Mm.
last time you actually sat down and thought, you know what, there's just so many layers to me that I actually want to understand who I am as a person and what I'm here for, my purpose and things like that. Like, how am I going to add value to society? You know, we don't want to do that because we're so caught up in putting our shit on other people and trying, like, hoping for them to like deal with it or, you know, help us in some sort of way. And we don't need that because everything that we need is like here and here.
I think what I've been learning the older I get, it's kind of like, you can't throw a baby into the ocean and be like swim. You have to put them in the swimming pool. They have to be able to see the walls. They have to be able to see the structure. And then as they get older and older, the pool gets bigger, the water gets deeper, and then eventually, when they've done enough, throw them in the middle of the ocean where there are no walls, there's no safety, they can't see the bottom of it, but now they're prepared. This journey of discovering ourselves is that same idea. Like, it's cool to start with a template, whether that template is a religion, whether that template is a spiritual belief, whether you think it means being vegan, whether you think it means, following certain people on Instagram, but slowly keep pushing out, and slowly the transition has to be less dependent on understanding yourself in relation to how other people look at you, their validation. Because all of us, it is in our DNA to give a shit what other people think. I
100%.
understand that, but we can slowly wean ourselves off of it. And when you do wean yourself off of it, what you discover is it's magnificent. And it's okay for it to happen slowly. And for anybody listening, please look at that. Like, just take a step in the right direction. And I love that Tinder reference you made, because I think about, like, you go on a date with somebody and you're like, well, tell me about yourself. And you're like,
Yeah.
sit down in a room by yourself, get a pen and a journal, and ask that same question.
Mm-hmm.
Say, tell me about yourself,
Absolutely.
and just start fucking writing. And I want to know, in addition to, because what I'm hearing is your 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 level up, your evolution, your discovery of that newer layer, more authentic layer of yourself continually came when shit hit the fan. It
Yeah.
came when you tried to conform with the hair removal. It came when you tried to conform marrying, this patriarchal dude. Eventually you get to the point where, like, okay, instead of just waiting for shit to hit the fan, then let me dive into this. Let me go ahead and find some shit to jump into. um what else are you doing to better understand yourself besides just waiting for life to kick you in the ass?
Take time out. Like, I prioritize self-care over self-love. I've actually gone through a whole sort of journey of just being like, fuck self-love. I feel like, you know, it's so unfair for me to get up on stage in front of thousands of people and be like, oh, just love yourself, it'll be fine, it's okay. No, Harnaam, people have gone through decades of trauma, and now
Mm,
all of a sudden one person's going to listen to you and say, oh, Harnaam told me to love myself, so I need to love myself and I'll all be healed. Like, do you know how selfish that is?
mm,
That is so selfish. And I look back at some of my talks and it makes me cringe because I'm just there like, just love yourself. You know, when you talk and you say things that you know people want to hear,
yeah,
you know, I
yeah,
see that in some of the things that I say, but now I'm just so unfiltered. And I say to people, it's not about that, innit? It's not about like loving yourself, not just yet, you know, that will come later, you know, I promise you it will come. But you need to start prioritizing yourself, like your mental health. You know, you need to prioritize, again, just understanding what you are. Like, yes, I went through trauma, you know, I went through trauma. Am I going to sit here and let that manifest and, you know, sort of relive it over and over again, or am I going to do something about it? Okay, I want to do something about it. Okay, so let's pick up a hobby. Let's reconnect with our friends. Let's go out and actually start doing things. Let's actually start
Mm,
living. Okay, so you're gonna start living now. You know, you've decided to take that path. You actually want to go out there. Okay, so what's the next step? You want to understand who you are as a person. You know, you're out there socializing. Okay, what's the next thing that I can do? Okay, well, I can disengage from people that are not good for me in my life and create a safe space in my head and around me, my physical space, that's going to be positive, right?
mm,
Okay, so you've made that change. So then you're only going to have good people around you, right? Because you value your time, you value your energy, you value things that are around you. You know, you want to then go ahead and get counseling. You know, you want to talk to your friends about things that you've gone through. You start that process of understanding why you went through certain things, what lessons you can take from it. You know, when you go through certain steps and you think that, you know what, I'm actually okay, can
mm.
you start the process of actually loving yourself because you love life? You know, you don't think about things that happen to you in a negative way, you understand them as a lesson, you know. But this is very subjective because people go through horrible shit, so this thing doesn't work for everyone, you know.
I think
um
it's interesting the way you say it because I also feel like self care could actually be seen as the action. You know, I think what happens is we have these like cliche terms like love yourself. It's a cliche term, and you know, it's even when you're with somebody like I love you, and it's like, do you even have to say it if you can show it?
mhm,
You know, and do you have to say love yourself if you show it? And to show you that you love yourself, would some of that would be reflective in self-care, you know? Because I think the things that you're saying are showing yourself that you care about yourself. You're a good analogy I heard for self-love is be your best friend, you know. And now it's like, you know, if you're giving yourself that you know, that hug or that kiss on the cheek or that kick in the butt to
mhm,
get therapy or to you know, not repeat your cycles or your patterns, that encouragement to create that safe environment to revisit you know, a trauma, to find some value out of it, to find some lessons. And I think that's really interesting from that standpoint, that even the idea of you being like, look, I'm catching myself saying all the right things, and
mhm.
that's not that's going to stagnate me. That's going to put me in a cage of, I'm going to have to remain that person who says all the right things versus being
Absolutely.
that, you know, no filter. And again, like the longer you do it, the more filters you're going to realize you have.
Mhm.
Whereas like you
Absolutely.
might be honest, but it might just be like, oh no, now like shit, this, you know, I'm on a big TV show, and by default, I'm saying certain things or changing up the accent or doing different things, and we all catch that. And I know I had to co-host a radio show in this country, like on our, you know, you guys have BBC, we have CBC, and I remember my one of my childhood friends, who listened to that radio show before I was the guest host, and his feedback was, "Bro, I love your white person's voice." And I was like, my what? He goes, I love your white person's voice. He goes, you're so articulate on the radio. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck you talking about? And then I heard myself, and it's like, cause you're in a professional setting and you're like, hey everybody, my name is Humble the Poet. How you guys, you know,
Yeah.
and you do it subconsciously. And it took him, and he wasn't even insulting me. He was semi-insulting me, but it was just kind of this idea of acknowledgement that like, hey, you know, we live in a certain, you know, certain people's world. We're part of, you know, we're not part of the majority. They set the rules, and there's layers of how much they've impacted us, whether we realize it or not. So I love the fact that you said that, because it's 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 not, there's nothing to accomplish. It's not about being your authentic self. It's about further discovering your authentic self. It's not about removing the filters. It's about discovering the filters that,
Of
and remove,
course.
yeah, making room for the other ones. So I love that you said that in terms of self-care. I know, so I want to let you finish if there was something else you wanted to say before I switch gears.
No, absolutely. You're right. And I feel like um, the point that you made about like the white person's voice, for me, it was more so of, you know, trying to, you know, when I remember doing my first big sort of morning daytime show, which is watched by millions. And I remember walking towards the sofa thinking, so who do I please? Do I please a community that I haven't left yet
Mm.
by saying the right things? As to, obviously we know that, you know, keeping hair or gears in the Sikh religion, it's a big thing. So do I,
It's very on brand. That's what it is.
yeah. So it's like, do I go there with my semi-religious self,
Yeah.
or do I talk openly about the person that I am, my true self, and what I'm becoming?
Yeah.
So my first ever interview, they were like, "Oh, so it was something like, so why did you grow your hair?" I was like, "Because I'm religious." You know, you know, like we're not really supposed to like shave our hair. And my next interview, they called me on like a year later, and I said like, yeah, like my whole persona changed. I said, you know what, I keep it for me. And yes, it's part of a major rule for the Sikh religion, but seeing those two sort of interviews and to see how I've changed and developed, it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
So even like when people introduce me on stage or do, and they know everything that I'm done, like I sit there and I'm like that's actually you. They're talking about you,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of the little young girl that opened magazines and never saw someone that looked like me in
Hmm.
magazines, and things, until I became that girl that was on like Vogue Japan and Cosmo India and Glamour magazine and all these other magazines, because again, hey, we have the power to create these movements, right?
Yeah.
Everything just shocks me now. And um, one thing I actually always think about from your talks is when you openly spoke about like your financial situation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they sort of turn around and they're like, oh, she did it for the money, and she like how she did it for the money, and she sold her soul and she sold her sikhi for a dime and things like that.
You're like, what dimes? What dimes? Where are these dimes coming from?
I've had this jacket for like 5 years. Like, Victor, do you know what I'm trying to say? And it just really it's really funny because this is probably the first time I'm actually gonna say this on a public platform so that people know, fam, I was broke. And when I mean broke, I was up in G wagons with a like rumbling stomach, right? Broke as fuck, boy. Gosh, easy miracle. But hey, I was living life from sponsored shit.
Mm.
Honestly, people are like, oh, she did it for the money. Good talk. Like my socks and that, I had to like sew up flipping holes in my sock because girl had no money to buy socks. I used to have 10-hour shoots in London. I'd wake up early in the morning, have breakfast. All day I wouldn't eat because I couldn't
Yeah.
afford to eat, right? London's expensive anyway. And then I would eat at home, right? 12 hours, no food. I would, even if I had the thing of, okay, do you know what? You've got a couple of quid here, you can buy something. I'm like, nah, because I need it next week for when I need to get back into London for a train ticket. I was broke. My trainers were
Mm.
mad. I used to sew up my trainers. It was nothing about that. It had nothing to do with money. Honestly, I didn't start making money until the end of 2018.
Wow.
And I've been doing stuff in the media, TV shows, traveling, this, that, and the other since 2014. It took me 4 years to actually start making money where I can actually live.
But
I was
but now
broke.
looking back, aren't you glad you had that period of being broke? Because it really informs how you spend the money once you get it.
100%, absolutely. But I just wanted to like I don't know, just maybe wanted to clarify that, like, it's not about the money, it's not about anything, it's about adding value and actually wanting to help people and using I'm so grateful for all the shit that I went through, Humble.
Mm.
Like, even the suicide attempts, the self-harm, like, looking back and all the horrendous things that people put me through, like, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you so much. Because you know what? I ended up becoming the person that I am now. And you know what? If I hadn't have gone through all of that, I had nothing to speak about. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I had no experience to speak about. So now I'm looking back at it, I'm like, girl, you travel the world and you're helping people. There are people that are like twice your age that are crying on your shoulder because your stories help them in some sort of way. There's parents that are coming up to you and their kids have looked at your pictures and they think, oh, she looks like a princess, or do you know what, if I saw her getting bullied in the playground, I would be her friend. Like, changing, chipping away at these norms slowly,
Yeah.
actually helping people. That's what it's about. I keep telling people I'm so content right now.
Mm.
I'm so content right now because there are other bearded ladies out there. There's loads. But for me to be able to get to this place in my life where I've done a lot of things that bearded ladies haven't been able to do, I'm so content. I could die happy.
Mm.
Like, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's like it's living history, and you're making it, and it takes these moments of pause to be like, oh shit, like looking back, like it's a crazy journey, and I think that's so beautiful, and I mean, like, this is why I wanted to have the conversation with you, because it's you finding gratitude in the bullshit, finding gratitude in the challenges and the difficulties, and so so many of us, when we go through bullshit, the first the first hurdle, the first wall we have to get through is the idea that this isn't supposed to be happening, that
Yeah.
this isn't fair. This shouldn't be a problem I should be dealing with. And I think this is where, everyone hopefully eventually will find gratitude in what 2020 introduced to the world, because it was like, your opinion on what's happening doesn't matter because it's happening at this point. And it's the same thing with, every challenge that you faced. We can spend so much time judging our circumstances, but like,
Of course.
it's happening. Like, it's still gonna, whether you like it, don't like it, it's happening.
Mhm.
And our problems may not even be our fault, but they are our responsibility. Like, we have to still address them nonetheless. If the house is on fire, you don't sit there and just stare at it talking about why it's on fucking fire. You have to address the fucking fire. And I love that you have that, because it lets me know as well that, like, more shit's going to follow you. You're going to find more shit. That's a given. Nobody, this isn't, a happily ever after story. But now, again, you're more equipped. You have more
Mhm.
tools, you have more insight, you have more experience, you have more knowledge, and you have a better attitude towards when this shit finds you. And you're like, look, this is what I've already been through.
Yeah.
What next? Bring it on. And I think that's where we want to get to, until we get to the point where we're like, fuck it, like, nothing negative is happening. Let me go get into some trouble. Let me go find that.
Yeah.
And I know,
And
for
it's
me,
that
that's,
inner drive.
yes, that's what 2020 was for me. For me, 2020 wasn't like, oh my God, like, the world, before, at the end of 2019, and I was talking about this before we started recording, my 2020 resolution was, don't travel and write your book. Like, stay home, write your book. And now that you're staying home, because I was on the road a lot, McDonald's breakfast was my best friend. I was not sleeping properly. It was taking a toll on me. And I was like, all right, you need to stop this. You need to stay in one place, find a place to live, because I was just a nomad, and then write, work out, and get better at whatever you want to focus on. That was the
Yep.
promise I made myself for 2020.
Yeah.
In January, I broke it. In January and February, I was on 18 to 19 flights, just traveling,
Wow.
doing places. And again, there were cool things. They weren't things, just random things, opportunities find me. So then when the pandemic hit and all of that went away, for me, it was like, oh, now you're just in a situation to honor the promise you made yourself. And then it became a situation where it was like, um, certain work and certain deals that I had been doing had just finished. I wasn't planning on doing anything else, in comparison to other people who lost their work and their job. Again, I wasn't in a negative situation. But then I started to add, the voice in my head was like, well, what are the things that you've been avoiding? Like, what
Mhm.
are the challenges? What are the conversations? What are the things that you've been avoiding and running away from all this time? Now you got to face it. And it's not the pandemic for me. So I had to make big adjustments in my personal life. I had to make big adjustments in the way I treated myself, and that's an ongoing process, and it sucks. And some days it's, tears alone
Yeah.
by myself, and other days it's euphoria and figuring it all out. But like, again, like, this is what this journey has to be. Um, we touched on the Sikhi side of it. I know you said you wanted to have a conversation around it. So I'll let you lead that before we move on to other things.
God, where do I even start? But can I touch upon what you said quickly as well?
100%. 100%.
Because talking about like looking back at life, and we do ask ourselves like, why me? Like, why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And like for me personally, like I can sit here and I can look back at my life and I'm able to connect the dots.
Yes.
So it's like, you went through bullying and all of that. It turned you into a stronger person. That's why you got bullied. Your grades declined. Why did your grades decline? Oh, you were bullied, so you started skiving. I wasn't able to get into the uni that I wanted to get into and do the course that I wanted to do. Why? Why is it that all these employers didn't employ you? Why? Well, it's because I didn't need a uni degree to become a motivational speaker. I didn't need that job, because where the world didn't give you a job, you created one for yourself.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's just one thing I wanted to add. It's like, you get to a point where the why me stop, and you see everything that happens to you in life as a blessing, and you think of it as, okay, do you know what, I'm actually going to learn something from this, and this, what's happened to me right now, is going to add value to what I'm going to become in the future.
And that's the important part. That part right there, which is like we can all look back and be like, okay, now I see how this all connected. I can see how all the clues and the breadcrumbs connected. But the
Mhm.
important part of that is to say, this is enough evidence for me to trust my future.
Always.
That's
Absolutely.
I definitely see that, and I think that's the big reminder. And I think anybody listening can go back and see how certain pieces have added up. Everybody can go back and say, there was something that I encountered some news. I thought it was the worst thing in the world. 5 years later, looking back, it was the best thing ever. And the other way around, I came across some news, thought it was going to be the best thing in the world. 5 years later, I wish it never happened. And I
Yeah.
think, and the reason we do this playback is it's a lot easier to think about the past, even if our memories are a lot shittier than we'll ever admit to ourselves. But taking that as evidence for the future, because the past doesn't exist anymore. And right now we always just have so much anxiety about our future. Instead, we got to be like, look, I'm here. Every single thing I've ever dealt with, I dealt with it, and I'm here. I can handle more.
100%. Absolutely. And that actually triggered a thought that I wanted to mention before as well, because right now I'm in a headspace of, do you know what, like, come at me. Like, on it, when you say you challenge
Mm,
yourself to
yeah.
find the drama. My best friend is like, Harnaam, he goes, I live such a splendid life, no drama. He goes, you are the only siapa, the only drama in my life. Because you come with everything. He goes, I'm just here like living life, working, coming and working, coming. And he goes, I talk to you on WhatsApp, you, and it's drama, drama, drama. I was like, see, they're like, I'm just like that.
Yeah.
But it's I just can't. It's just mad to think about it. Like, everything that you do, everything that you go through adds value to you, adds value to your story. It changes you
Mm,
as a person, either for the better or for the worst. And it's what you can take from it that will impact you.
yes.
Like, where are you manifesting your thoughts? Where are you manifesting your energy? And yeah, I mean, life can be what we make it, but I'm also mindful of the fact that people are going to be listening and they're going to be like, oh, she's at such a great place now and things like that. Like, honestly speaking to you right now, it's like we're talking about our journeys and putting it into such a beautiful heart-shaped box. But hey, like, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have
Mm,
anxieties and certain issues with your self-esteem and confidence and things like that. I just don't want people to feel bad about themselves because they're not on, like, at a place in their journey or their life where they can be content. I talk about chasing drama and things like that. Like, I challenge people, when you've just heard it all,
yeah.
like, Wish, go, like, say something to me now, please. I beg you, say something to me now that's going to tear me down, because I've heard everything,
Yeah.
everything under the sun. There's nothing else. Taking it to like the conversation we were going to have about like the community and stuff. Like, I get death threats daily, you know.
Yeah.
Daily. They're no Martha now. We're gonna kill you. I'm like, Ajal, come on, then.
Yeah,
You
which, yeah, the irony of all that. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so it's just It's amazing because, you know, back when, like I mentioned, the first ever big interview that I did, where I, you know, went and I was like, yeah, I'm religious, you know, everyone applauded me for it, like, you know, well done, you know, you've got someone with like a beard and a turban on mainstream TV, like,
Yeah.
well done, clapping, patting me on the back. And then I found myself, right? And then the Wayne Dyer video was watched. And then I sat there and I peeled back the layers. I thought that was not you. That was not you. That was something that you heard from someone, an uncle in the back, and that's exactly what came through your mouth. It was them talking. That wasn't you talking.
It was a parrot. You
Um,
were a parrot.
yeah, I was someone's shadow.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
someone's shadow.
Mm.
Um, and then it just went off from there, like the community, that the hatred that I faced from the community, you know, because they focus on things like, you know, her mom's talking about sex, she's talking about sex toys, you know, she's a woman with a turban and she's got piercings, she's got tattoos, she's got makeup, and she does her nails and she does her eyebrows. I don't do my eyebrows. My eyebrows are naturally fleeky. My eyebrows are naturally fleeky.
For those who are not watching this on video, like Harnaam's eyebrows are so fleeky that I can imagine people being very jealous and wanting to offer. I understand that your
I
eyebrows
mean,
are to die for. I get that.
it's I just know how to wear makeup well.
Yeah.
That's it, you know. But there's, you know, they came to me with so much things like again, you sold your soul, you sold your psyche, you know, you're a disgrace to the community, you know, how did your, then they bring your parents in because they really love that emotional
Mm,
blackmail, you
yeah.
know, how did your mom and dad raise you? I was like, very well, actually, you know, like, you know, if she ever came to India, we would kill her, we would shoot her, we would set her on fire. You know, there's a massive organization in India that put out a 17-minute video on YouTube with my images. And it was actually really funny because I'm like, you had to really zoom, because the picture that they put up was a semi-nude picture of me, right?
Mm,
And I'm like, you really went onto my Instagram and found a semi-nude picture for you to then put onto a video and tell me that I'm a disgrace? Oh, did you like that picture?
yeah. Yeah.
My mind goes, did you really like that picture? My mind goes like that. Like I start
Yeah.
teasing it. But no, they're, you know, find out where she is, find out her family, like Sikhs in the UK need to, you know, Sakh the
Yeah.
Sadar, like use like really strict force against her and things like that. You know, I get, you know, certain messages, death threats from people in my town and things like that. Like it's real shit. And I'm going through it as a woman, you know,
Mm,
as a
yeah.
woman that has that, you know, as women we're bound down by society, especially if you're different, especially of color, because there's
Yeah.
different layers to people, right?
Yeah.
And then you're out there, you're doing something that's very different. You're doing something not just for you, but to help the community, to help people. You're representing, right? Like, why is it that we talk about representation, but when someone is representing, they're apparently doing it the wrong way? No, bitch, you're jealous that you don't have that platform. But I'm not the type of person to
Mm,
bring people down. I will build a longer table. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
I will build a longer, like, hey, like, come with me. You want to jump on it? Like,
Yeah.
come, I'll take you to a certain show. Come with, like, that's what I'm like. And I
Mm.
wanted to speak to you, like, how has it been with you as someone that does have a beard and a turban? Like, you've got black Punjab tattooed on your neck or something.
Yeah.
You've got tattoos and
Mm,
stuff. Love it.
yeah.
I love it. Did you do a YouTube video? I think I saw a YouTube video of you getting it done or something, or was that in a music video?
It was a music video. It was it was an ill-informed music video where we decided to like while I'm shooting the music video to get the tattoo, which again, it's a cool premise, but if you think about it, you're risking ruining the tattoo because you're performing while you're getting it. And also
True.
like I could have got the tattoo and then faked it for the video. Right.
True.
And I just remember and it's funny because the artist, he called me this morning. I'm seeing him tomorrow. We're gonna I haven't seen him in a while, and I have a little hangout with him tomorrow. And he brought it up because with all the stuff that's happening with the farmers, in that track I say fuck Bollywood and all this stuff. So it's 10 that song came out in 2010. 10 years later, it's kind of getting a new flame. And he brought it up because he's the guy in the video, and he's just like, remember that? And I was like, yeah, I do remember just how dumb we were for doing the tattoo, like actually doing the tattoo. But yeah, to your question, I think for me probably yeah, 2010 when I dropped that song Boggy, it was a really interesting thing because before that I was the underdog. I was just, hey, that whole he's one of us. Like let's cheer him on. Like we don't know anything about him, so we're gonna assume that he represents everything that we care about. So let's cheer him on. Let's cheer him on. And I think when I released Boggy, it was, it started kind of making people have to have an uncomfortable conversation with themselves about who this humble the poet guy is, because
There you go.
I'm saying things that are things that they agree with, but I'm also doing it in ways that they don't agree with, and
I love that.
it's and
I'm so against the norm, like everything that's against the norm. You know, when people say, no, you can't do this, so you're like, watch me. Like rebellious. I'm so rebellious. Like I love the rebellious nature in that video and like what you did.
and that's the whole thing with that specific song and that specific video. It was at that point, none of this was going through my head. So at
Mm,
this point, I'm in New York with Sick Knowledge, who produced the track, with
yeah.
with Houdini, who you see still active, beautiful dude, and another dude by the name of Gunjeev Bagi Singh. His alias was Bagi, and it was the middle of the night. These guys were in school at New York University, NYU. Um, and for anyone who's been to New York, this is like these are dorms outside of Union Square. So we're chilling out there, we're hanging out in a dorm, and it was like, let's say 11:30, 12. And Boggy walks through the door with a box of donuts, a fresh box of donuts. And everyone was so hungry and so grateful.
Yeah.
And I had just written a song I had just written a song called Muhammad Saeed about another one of my friends who had given me this really good beat. And I'm like, I'm gonna name the song after you. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm an artist. So after eating these donuts, I'm like, Boggy, I'm gonna write a song about you called Boggy. And then I remember I asked him what it meant. He told me, Boggy means rebel, all of this. And I remember calling my mom the next day and being like, hey mom, you ever heard of this word Boggy? Like, what's it mean? And she's like, Boggy are the people that, they go against their commanders in the army. Boggy are those kids that don't listen to their parents, like you're a Boggy. I mean, you're saying that, and I'm just like, oh shit, like this is a vibe. And there was a beat that was already being made at this point. I was making a lot of social activism music, and I wasn't saying F you to the public. I was saying F you to like my DJ who's telling me that, yo, you don't make music people can dance to. So I'm like, well, fuck you. I'll make a song people can dance to. Like the motivation was so pure and goofy and simple. And then what ended up happening was the game changer was we made the song. We went to a university party and we shot the video. So there was a real party going on, and we shot the video and we made it seem like we snuck into this party. That was the whole premise of the video. So all of this to me was just a fun-loving song. At this point, we had everybody, Just Rain, everybody was in the video. Again, never thought of this as a historical moment in any way, shape, or form. But what happened was I had to catch a flight to go somewhere. And we had finished the video, we edited it 3 nights in a row. Um, we burned it on a CD, and I had to leave for my flight. So I gave it to AK, AK, the community. And
Yep.
I put a sticky note on there with my login for YouTube and my password. And I left. I had to go to this event in New Jersey. It's called The Hair, and I was going to perform there. What happened was I think AK lost the password, so
Oh, okay.
he put it on his channel, which was much bigger. So when he put on his, like the song blew the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like where I would have probably gotten 10,000 views, he made it get 170,000 views. That I wasn't prepared for. And what happened immediately, I remember landing. I hadn't slept all night, so I was backstage sitting on a chair asleep. And somebody woke me up and they started showing me comments on the internet. And the comments were, this guy is a Khalistani freedom fighter. He's making music to tell kids to fight the government. Because I said, fuck Bollywood, I'm not Indian, I'm Punjabi. So that was an offensive term in that context. Then there was messages from different Sikhi groups being like, yo, this guy's got paid by the government to corrupt the kids. He's trying to corrupt Punjabi youth. Like he's showing girls dancing, he's jamming with girls, he's a Sardar, shouldn't be doing this. And I just remember having this moment being like, yo, everybody thinks I'm on these two different teams. Everybody thinks I'm on this payroll. And I was like, I was like, I'm broke. Nobody's paying me. These terrorist organizations haven't cut me a check. These governments haven't cut me
I
a
wish
check.
they did.
I was broke back then. I would have taken both checks. Dave Chappelle has this, funny joke where he's like, I did a commercial for Coke and Pepsi the same year. He goes, whoever was gonna pay me, that was my favorite drink. And
Yeah.
this is like, I had just quit my job. I was just beginning my artist life. And that was the point. And I remember recording an entire conversation with a friend to like put out an explanation of the song. And after I recorded, I was just like, who gives a shit? Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like explaining is so draining. There's no point. There's nothing. And the irony of it all is, and even now, 10 years later, the spirit of that song, you know, for people who have come across me in the last 4 years, 5 years, they don't know the music Humble the Poet, they know the book guy or what have you, you know, it's almost the other way. They think, oh, this guy's so corporate, he's so safe, he's not going to speak out against these things. And again, it's like I have songs about police brutality that I released in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
But when people attack me and say you don't care about Black Lives Matter, it's just like there's no point, and even with the farmers protest, the amount of people like at that within the community that are going to say you're not doing enough, you don't, you're not calling Priyanka Chopra to get her to talk about it, you're not punking Lily and making her do all this shit. You
Yeah.
start to realize that a there is no community. That's the number one thing I think I really want, especially this, and this is not just about young South Asian Desis, Punjabis. This could be about any, diaspora uh, community. There is no community just because a bunch of people look the same, speak the same language, have similar religious beliefs. They're not a community. That's a population. A community has a bond to something. Your village was your community. Your neighborhood was your community. Where, you know, if you're good with your neighbors and one of your neighbors notices your front door is open and they close it, somebody takes out your garbage because they saw you that you forget, that's a community. This
Yeah.
is a community just because they say this stuff. And so many people are handcuffing their potential because they're so afraid of what the community will say. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized it because at that point the death threat started for me on all levels. Then again, at that point I had enough thick skin to already deal with public backlash, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't anticipate the fear in my mom's eyes
Wow.
and in my sisters, when
Okay.
they started, and then a year later I got invited to India to do some gigs. And I remember, having a Skype meeting back then. This is like 2011. And the guys were like, yeah, we want to. I'm like, yo, I released a song and I said, fuck Bollywood. And they're like, yeah, that's why we want you to come. Like,
Oh.
you're punk rock. That's what they didn't even know what rap was back then. They're like, you're punk rock. We want to include punk rock. And I was like, my mom, and the other thing too is like, if we go back into like, stories of the 80s and 84 and stuff like that, like my mom lost family,
Yeah.
people went missing.
Mhm.
So when she says you don't get to go back to India because you're not going to be safe, I understand why she's saying that.
Yeah.
So I said, look, my mom, this is a sensitive thing. She's going to be very worried if I go to India.
Mm-hmm.
The response was, okay, cool, bring her too. And then,
Oh.
yeah, so they really wanted me there. And they got us, they bought a ticket for me and my mom. And then we went, and I was shooting a TV show. That's what the original thing they had me there for.
Mm-hmm.
On a resort in Goa. So my mom was just living the resort life, but I also like talking to people. And she kept asking them. She's like, my son said these things about Bollywood. He said, whatever. Like, don't you guys have a problem with that? And she had never been outside of Punjab properly. She had never been to a major city in India, even though she grew up in India. She had never seen the metropolitan mindset. And these guys
Mm-hmm.
are artists. They're weirdos too. And even I asked some of the guys too, just like, y'all don't care that I said fuck Bollywood. He's like, bro, people in Bollywood say fuck Bollywood. Like,
Oh
we
my
don't
God.
give a shit. And it was this moment of just like, look, at the end of the day, your people are your people. And I can say I'm a Punjabi guy. I can say I'm a Sikh. I can say I'm a Toronto man's, which in itself has an identity.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm an artist and I'm a weirdo. And the people that I know are my community are the artists and the weirdos. Because if I'm
That's
talking to you and I'm telling you my big dreams, you're never going to place an inch of fear inside of me. And I think that became a really big thing. And after that, like, you know, more death threats came to me in 2012 after I released that
wow.
horny song with Lily. Um, And then even recently, I just released a song last year at the end of 2020, and the chorus goes Puckett Singh, Malcolm X, Dudley George, I fucking rep. And then I started getting a bunch of hate for like mispronouncing Puckett Singh's name. And it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot how much nitpicking is. I don't get this with the books. The book side of this, pe-
Yeah.
people who read books are a wonderful bunch. But obviously if you're gonna make music, you're gonna get young people. You're gonna get people who are just digesting quick information. So I think for me, it was kind of that understanding and realization, and then it was also like making ownership. And this is why it was important for me to bring up the Sikhi thing with you, is because we were told, like we were given the structure. This is what a Sikh is. This is what a
Yeah.
Punjabi is. Now I've traveled a lot, and I've seen like, okay, this is what the UK Sikhs think. This is what the
Yeah.
California Sikhs think. You know what I mean? So this is what the Calgary Six think. This is what the Vancouver Six, and it's always different. And
Absolutely.
then I go to Chandigarh and it's like, yo, this is what it's always completely different. So you start to realize it's like, the cultures make a difference. Like the intensity of, you're from the UK. Everybody in the UK is intense. They're intense when it comes to sports. They're intense when it comes to politics. There's an intensity. It has nothing to do with Sikhi. It's the culture of the place.
Yeah.
So what I realize is like, we're just bashing our heads against the wall if we're trying our best to fit into somebody else's definition of these cultures and these heritages.
There you go.
Then the first step, if we abandon it. That's the first step. We're like, no, no, no. You know what? Fine. If you don't think I'm a good Sikh, then I'm not a Sikh anymore. Fine. If you don't think I'm a good Punjabi, I'm not Punjabi no more. But what we have to realize is like, no, like we don't. The issue is us trying to define ourselves by somebody else's definition. At the end of the day, I'm a Punjabi, and no matter what I do, even if I don't speak Punjabi and I never say a Punjabi word, I'm still a Punjabi guy, and I get to decide what it means to be Punjabi. I'm not just a participant in culture. I'm a contributor to culture. And same thing with Sikhi. At the end of the day, when we start to think about the British influence in India, that had a huge influence on what people understand modern
100%.
Sikhi to be. You know, but the spirit of Sikhi, the actual spirit of Sikhi, the stories that we've learned about, you know, literally the things being told, these are the rules by the oppressor, and the things being like, okay, thank you for giving me my to-do list of what rules I need to break today, what
Yeah.
conflicts I need to dive into. You you embody that in every way, shape, and form. You embody that. Like it's my pago on every single level. It doesn't matter if you have a nose ring or a bunch of tattoos. It doesn't matter if you keep every hair on your body. Like the Sikhi, the spirit of what Sikhi is, which is to be a life. Sikh means student. Sikh doesn't mean somebody with a
Yeah.
beard. Sikh means
No.
student. Gu means dark, ru means light. To go from darkness to light. Your entire story that you just shared with me is going from darkness to light. A Gursikh, that's what you are. Sat Nam. Sat means truth. Nam means name. And in many contexts, the only name worth speaking is the truth. All you're trying to do is reduce your filters and be more honest and authentic with yourself. Like, what the fuck is more authentic to the essence of Sikhi than that? And I think this is where we got to go, where we have to realize, like, I get it. When I was a kid, I had to memorize the 10 gurus' names. I had to
Yeah.
memorize all these dates. I had to memorize all this Bani. I get it. You got to start because there's got to be structure for young developing minds, but we got to grow from it. And I think that's where the issue is. When we don't grow from it, we start to resent it when it stops making sense to us.
That whole analogy that you've just presented to me like blew my mind. I mean, it's gonna saying that I'm like the essence of my bugger, yo, that's gonna cross some like mad shit. But
But
se-
what was it to cross? What's the story you heard of my Pago? You heard about a woman, and for those who don't know who my Pago is we were raised with different stories of different heroes. But my Pago was one of the women who led an army of women into a conflict when
yeah,
the men were too busy arguing amongst each other about whether they should. And then to hear you be like, yo, come at me with whatever shit you got, come at me, bring it. You know what I mean? Like this is I remember I was in London, and a friend of mine, he's an art collector, and he was showing me these diaries of British soldiers, because British soldiers were spying on the Sikhs.
Yeah.
And one was about how hard it was to command the Sikhs. Like you tell the Sikhs, like, yo, we're gonna attack the enemy at 10 a.m. They leave at 3 a.m. and they're like, fuck it, we're gonna do it right now. You know, that energy, that essence, that like the idea of they used to put a price on our head. Someone that
100%.
looks like me with a full beard and a pug, they say, we will pay you to cut this person's head off. And what was the Sikhi reaction to that? We need taller pugs. We need longer beards. Like, come find us. You know, we're not gonna hide in the
Of
shadows.
course not.
Come
Yeah.
find us. Even this, even this current leader of that country, he had to disguise himself like us once to stay safe. You know, so that essence of what it really means to be a Sikh, to learn, to serve, seva, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To meditate, which is to look at Simran, to look inside. This is everything that you just taught me today. It's all there. And the essence of the 1430 pages of what the Sri Guru Granth Sahib and, what all the teachings in Sikhi, there's no difference there. Now we have this identity, and you're supposed to have your hair, you're supposed to wear a kada, you're supposed to do all that. That's a whole different conversation
Yeah.
that people, because that's the easy way to judge somebody.
Of
Can I
course.
can I see your Sikhi? Can I see, do
Yeah.
you fit the bill? But the truth of the matter is, it's the same thing. Love yourself. Don't tell me, show me. I'm a Sikh. Don't tell me, show me. I
Yeah.
can't. How do I see a Sikh? I don't see a Sikh by the color of their pug or if they even have their hair. I see it through the service, through the meditation, through the spirit. We have a martial history. We've always stood up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. That's in our history. What are you doing? You know, more and more marginalized communities are existing, and we have to continually stand up for them. Back then, it was a simpler time. You had oppressors were this religion, the
Yeah.
population was this religion, and then we came in and we stood up for the people who were being oppressed. What's the difference of that and then standing up for somebody who's getting cyberbullied? What's the difference with that or standing up with somebody who doesn't want to fall under the labels of male or female or straight or gay or normal?
Mm-hmm.
This is the essence of this. And
Yeah.
we may not have to wield swords anymore. We may just have to, you know, leave a comment. We may just have to just fix our spine and stand up firm and face it, even when the people that are attacking us look just like us.
That's crazy because I went through such like turmoil with my identity because it's like Harnaam, like you're wearing a bug and you have a beard and like I live by one rule, and as long as I'm not hurting anyone, like I live by my body, my rules, whatever I do to my body, it's my right to do so, whether I wear a bug or I keep my gears, on my beard, whether it's I shave my arms, shave my legs, whatever I do, like, I might, because that's another thing as well, like, oh, so you spend time shaving your arms and your legs and your body parts, but yet you can't shave your beard. I'm like, well, it's my body, my rules. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we have the power to create the life that we want and the type of body that we want to live in. And for the longest time, I had like mad identity issues because, I being brought up in a Sikh family, going from being Amritari to sort of leaving that, and then still wanting to be a proud Sikh and go to, like, I haven't been to the Gurdwara in so many years, and it's because I want to and I miss it so much, but it's the backlash. But you renounce Sikhi though, so why are you going to the Gurdwara? It's things like that that just make me sit back and think, this is something that I just don't want to deal with right now. I don't need to
Yeah,
deal with it
but that's
because
the structural dogma of this. You can't renounce being a student. You can't renounce seeking the truth.
yeah,
How
but
do
when you've gone through that whole thing of you're not a Sikh, you're not a Sikh, you're not a Sikh because of this, that, and the other, and then you keep having that in the back of your mind. I'm like, for me back then, I was like, Jalo koina, je nahi Sikh. If I'm not a Sikh, then I'm not a Sikh. Then Jalo
yeah,
koina, who, like, all right then. I think right now, like, my mentality's changed towards that because before there was a mad conflict. If I spoke about Vasaki, online or 1984 online, I did it with fear. People are going to call me out for saying I'm not Sikh, but yeah, I'm doing this, that, and the other. Right now, I'm in the state of mind that, I religion is something that's not for me, and I love the spiritual aspect of it, but it's stripping everything away and looking at the foundations,
Mm,
of
mm,
daya, dharam, love and work and selfless service and
yeah,
being a good person. And that's what I sort of focus everything on, and not the rules and regulations side of it.
yeah. It's the idea, and this is something that I've been exploring a lot. It's the idea that people can have the right answers without knowing why they're right. And you know things turn into gospel when maybe they never were intended for that. When we grew up hearing stories about the gurus and how there was a big push to liberate people from mental slavery, spiritual slavery, and physical oppressive slavery, and then to go like, okay, you were trying to break people from these shackles. Now all of a sudden we become institutionalized. We have government bodies. We have all of this. Maybe this isn't a victory. Maybe this is headed in the wrong direction. And at the end of the day, we are able to separate that. We're able to separate the dogma. We're able to separate the religion side of this. And none of that means, you have to abandon what it means to be a student, what it means to be a server, what it means to be a soldier, what it means to be a saint. Because all of those things you're still showing. All of you're actively fighting the battles within and without,
Yeah,
which is a much more important tenet of the Sikh journey than having a beard or a hair or
absolutely.
tying a crown. All of those things again are for external, and we're human. I get it. We're all creatures that require some level of validation, whether we're counting likes on Instagram, whether we get impacted by the bullies at school. The energies, the universe, God, the almighty algorithm, whatever you want to call it, the essence, the source, at the end of the day, showed you like, yo, we're not going to make you employable. You're an organization in yourself. So like, let's make it evident to you to stop having job interviews, you
Mm-hmm.
know and you're not the one that's supposed to be having, you know collecting checks. You're supposed to be the one writing checks. You're supposed to
True.
be the one empowering people. And I think there's a beauty to that. There's a relationship with this world. And all of this stuff, the beauty of it is, especially for us who have been force fed Sikhi at a young age, we can now go back, revisit it with adult eyes, and be like, oh shit, there's so
Exactly.
much beauty in what this was. And only 3, 4, 5 generations of village mindset, patriarchal mindset, all of this shit, it changed this British mindset. All of
Yeah.
these things changed the meaning of this stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's talking about the power of the mind and things like that. Again, like, we are taught certain things, and that becomes our norm. That's what we sort of just, register, and
Mm,
we look up to our parents. Whatever our parents say, it's the right thing or whatever. But then you grow older, you mature, your sense of self matures, you see the world through sort of adult eyes. And religion is very subjective. Like you make it what you want it to be,
yeah.
basically. And I think that's where I am right now, with it all. Is it's not going to stop, it's not going to change. But you talk about buggy, can I join the buggy community? Because I'm so rebellious. I'm really rebellious. I always
Yeah.
do things that, that, like I said before, if someone tells me don't do it, I'm like, watch me. Don't
Yeah.
grow a beard, I'm like, watch me.
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm like that. And I feel like now that I've grown up a lot more, I'm able to make certain changes that sit well with me.
Mm,
And when it comes to like the community and the backlash that I get, a lot of it's just projecting their insecurities. Why is she, immigrant parents, she's brown skinned, she's got a beard and a turban, how is she so powerful enough that she's been given the privilege to go on TV? How can she be in like Vogue
mm,
Japan? How is she doing
yeah.
all of these things when we're not able to? A lot of it's things like that, like
Yeah.
how can she do it? And I'm like, I don't know. It's something it's just my purpose.
And
It's
that's the thing, you're honoring that. Like, this is always in you. It was always coded in you. It was always passed down to from those before us. And it just took certain environments to bring it out in you. And
true.
a lot of people really need to become mindful of how easily we can mask jealousy and activism. Very
Yeah,
easy. you know, what we want. And it's the same, I've seen it many times too, which is like some people want to tell me how to use my platform. And you want to be like, look, if you have opinions on how a platform should be used, go and make one. Go make your platform. See how
Yeah,
easy it is to you know, to have the audience that someone like me has. You realize it's not easy. So now instead of trying to do that work, you just want to tell me what to do, you know.
exactly.
And you're trying to mask it in these good intentions, try to mask it in activism, but really it's a sign of jealousy. And
Yeah,
I try to approach it with compassion, being like, look, at the end of the day, self-awareness, nobody comes out of the box self-aware. They got to realize it. You know, I've been around long enough to receive, I get a lot of private apologies from people who attack me publicly. You know,
I get.
nobody's ready to, you know, they're willing to attack me publicly, but they're not willing to apologize publicly. But you know, I see it. I'm like, this is their journey, and I've seen it a million times, even within the community, where you had people like, oh my God, you know, he's raps about sex. Oh my God, he's talked about ayahuasca and mushrooms and DMT and marijuana. He's, you know, he's such a disgrace to our people. And then 5 years later, you know, that they have a joint for the first time and their mind
Everyone's
opens
smoking
up.
CBD and
Yeah,
weed.
and now they're selling it or they're getting involved in a business, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense why you were doing it. And
Yeah,
you're sitting there like, I get it. You know, you could only meet me as far as you were, and you could only, you know, you could only love me as little as you love yourself. You know, and at the end of the day, every time a new superficial milestone would happen in
yeah,
your career and my career, it's going to be a reminder to everybody else that it wasn't them.
yeah, of course. And that's all it is.
That's
That's
what
where
it
a
really
lot of
boils
the
down
hate
to.
stems from. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's where a lot of the hate stems from. And it's almost like, you're using Sikh for your fame. I'm like, if that was the truth, then every Sikh would be famous. Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say?
A
Like,
100%. They love what you have, but hate that you're the one that has it.
that's all it is, and that there's levels to it. Like, when you've achieved a certain level in your life, and anyone that hasn't, it's like the only thing that can do is try and tear you down, to
Yeah.
your level. And I've realized that a lot, actually. And I just feel like you just need to be strong enough to sort of deal with it and not deal with it as well, like know when to shut it off, because you can't. It hurts your brain, it hurts your
It's
heart.
honoring your boundaries. It's really being like, look, like, so I tell myself, like, if I read a bunch of unpleasant comments on the internet, at this point, for where I'm at in my life, I'll take the blame for picking up the phone.
Wow.
I'll be like, yo, your dumbass should have realized that if you pick up your phone and check your mentions, this was going to happen. You knew that. You've been around long enough to know what provokes people, and you didn't do. You know what I mean? It's like if you got junk food in the kitchen, don't be surprised if you eat it. And it was the same idea. So again, I made adjustments that way. I think also, you know, if I could influence the direction you're headed with it, you know, try to look at it with compassion.
Yeah,
Look,
that's really funny because my like now don't judge me on this, but my London side comes out, right? Yo,
yeah,
if I
you're a
this
goon.
comment,
I said you're a goon.
like honestly, like you're gonna be shocked at this because I tell people, like, you know what, when I'm at work, when I'm doing my thing, like I don't mind being approached. People want to ask me questions. I love it. Like very like extroverted, right?
Yeah,
When I'm at home, I love my own space. I need to be able to shut off from the outside world. I'm on social media. I do check my
yeah,
messages. But like in regards to like, oh hey, can I take a picture when I'm outside? If especially when I'm with my family, I have to decline because that's my time with my family, right?
yeah.
So like, going back to like social media and reading certain comments, like people don't realize that I've actually got a side to me that they never expected, because all you've seen is the nice Harnaam on
Mm.
YouTube or on shows. So when you come at me with hate and I'm there like, yo, go suck your mother in it, right? It shocks them.
Because
It sh-
they see the mane, but they forget it's a lion. Is that what the
yeah.
issue
And so when you said, come through as a with compassion, yo, that's my compassion.
is? That's your love language.
That's my love language. Because hey, you I don't even blame myself. You should have known that if you wrote a negative comment, that I'm gonna come at you with like that.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
don't even blame myself. But again, like, sometimes I use it as an educational thing, like, you know, I'm going to educate you about something. Sometimes I'm there and my London side just comes out. Sometimes I'm there and it just makes me laugh, you
Yeah.
know.
And you're
So
allowed to have
I
all of that. You're a human being. Like, you're allowed that.
Exactly. But that's the thing, though, people forget. Influencers, celebrities, people that have massive followings, they're human. They're gonna have that side. I
Yeah.
remember being in Brooklyn once, and I was with my manager. Now, my manager and I, when we're not working, we've got mad banner. We're out smoking CBD, you know, we're having a laugh, we're at strip clubs, we're at restaurants, John Madaji, whatever it is, right? We're living life, right? I think I must have said something to her in like a very banterous way, and knowing us, like we were there like laughing our heads off and whatnot. And I remember getting a DM and someone said something like, oh, it was such a shame to see you like that, and the way that you were talking to your friend when
Mhm.
online you present yourself to be such a nice person.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not even allowed to be human
Well,
anymore because
you
people,
are allowed.
yeah.
Remember that. You are allowed. You know what it
Mm,
is? And this is the conversation I have with Lily a lot, which is just kind of like, look,
yeah.
you know, it comes with the territory. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
because the thing too is it's kind of like there's such a diversity of opinions and perspectives and the spectrum of it, and then
Yeah.
your following gets so big where 0.01% is a real human being. Like, it's like the rarest, weirdest opinion that could ever exist about you. If enough people know who you are, that's what's it going to be. And it's like you got to just see that it's going to come with like, it's not going to go away. You're not going to create a world
Of course
where,
not.
you know, your following is going to get bigger and they're just going to show you love and support. And I
No.
pay attention to this from, and the big thing that I try to do is pay attention to it for other creators and other influencers, being like, look, because a lot of my, you know, counterparts who are public figures, sometimes they act like they're the only one going through it. You know, they're just like, well, you know, so and so never gets any hate. It's like, you don't read their comments, you don't know what the fuck they're
Right.
going through, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to that same idea, acting like this problem shouldn't be a problem. And it's like, nah, like even before the internet, people were going through this stuff.
Of
You know,
course.
Michael Jackson was going through this stuff. Michael Jordan was going through this stuff. Madonna's going through this stuff. Like, this is part of the price. Like, you know, to jump in the water, you're going to get wet. You don't get to pick and choose. And I think for me, it's really been less about it's because as well. Like, I went through that stage of engaging. Like, somebody says something, you're like, okay, I'm gonna explain myself, and
Yeah.
all will be well. A, you can explain yourself, and that person's still not going to be satisfied. B, no one else is going to read the explanation, so you're not going to explain yourself 70 more times. And 3 days are going to go by, people are going to forget. So now you're just like, okay, this all of this is a waste of energy. It's a futile attempt. So I was like, all right, let me spend that energy somewhere else. As
True.
well as the idea of, like, for me especially, and I think this is the case for every public figure or anybody with a large following, the vast majority of the comments are positive. And
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is dishonor those people by giving attention to the few negatives.
Negative.
I'm
Yeah,
just like
that's so
that. You know, if I say something, if I say like, "Hey, Harnaam, I love your jacket," and then someone else is like, "Fuck you, you're a disgrace," and you reply to them, that lets me know that if I want your attention, I gotta attack you. And I
true.
think, you know, and it's subconscious. And there's so many times where I've engaged and I've seen my friends engage with the negative comments, and the replies, "Oh my god, I never thought you'd see this. I'm a big fan." And you're like, it's graffiti. It's just trying to get noticed. So
True.
I try to view that with compassion. And then the other thing is I've tried to, like, approach it with love. I've tried to, you know, have these dialogues. And, like, these people aren't interested. I have a
Mm,
million and one stories of people just like they just want to get noticed. I don't blame them. You know, we all love attention.
yeah.
And I have to I have to honor my boundaries. I have to protect my peace. And I have to
Mhm.
be mindful of how I spend my time. Because you could spend a whole day going through this shit. And I don't think
Oh, it
this
never ends.
it will never end. And it'll only get worse. And the other thing too is, as you get even bigger, people make a career out of attacking you.
Oh, 100%. Of
You know,
course.
because if the algorithm is giving you visibility, now all I got to do is make a video and drop your name in it. Now I'll get that same visibility. I'll be that little animal feeding off the whale. You know,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
it's the nature of this that I think that we all just have to recognize. And if you don't like the heat, stay out the kitchen. And the only way to win the game is not to play it. You
But
know,
that's it takes me back to that thing that I told myself when I was 16, like, hey girl, you better be ready for this world. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
come at you. Like you think that, your teenage years were crazy. Well, if you want to look like this, there's certain things that you're gonna have to battle.
Yeah.
And I remember once I was with someone and we were walking towards a gurdwara. This was before I was even in the media, and they turned around and said to me, oh, everyone's looking at you, right?
Mm.
As they say, we walk in this direction, loads of people walk in opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone keeps looking at you, obviously at my beard and stuff. And I was wearing like a suit and a chunni, a veil. And I turned around and I said to that person, do you know what? Let me walk on. If you don't want to be seen with me, but I'm happy with myself. If you don't want to be seen with me, yo, that's your shit, innit? You can walk behind me because I'm happy. I ain't changing, innit?
Mm.
And someone else again, they mentioned something like, oh, how long are you going to keep fighting for, Harnaam, like, how much you got? I said, you know what? I will fight the world until my last breath,
Mm.
you know. And even saying that's a big thing. And like you said, as the platform grows, as the work grows, the workload gets better, you connect with a lot more people, you network, like it's gonna come like double,
It, it's different levels, different devils.
true.
And one day it's people leaving mean comments, and the
Hmm.
next day it's lawsuits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's different ways people try to get at you.
Yeah.
And again, it's I love the spirit as what you said, fight to your last breath, because that's what it's going to be. But
100%.
where the energy comes from is seeing the importance of the mission and being,
Yeah.
what else would I fucking do with my time? What else am I going to do with this oxygen that I'm breathing? What is there any
Yeah.
is there a better reason to exist? And I mean, you are, I find so much inspiration in your story, because you know you have been slowly uncovering it. You've been slowly uncovering your authentic self. You've also been, none of it's been easy. And you take the bloody nose with a smile, and you look at life like, is that all you got? And you get back up, and I
Yeah.
love that you keep getting back up, and I love that about you.
But do you know do you know what keeps me going though? Do you know what keeps me going? There's a few things. So anything that I do, I want to do it in a big way, in it. I want
Mm,
to do it in a big way. I want to make documentaries, I want to be in movies, I want to what's it called? Just do various different things, be in magazines and front covers. And I keep telling my manager, like, yo, girl, it's not about me in it.
mm,
Like, yeah, you see my image, but when I didn't see myself, I became that person, on that magazine. And it's to show people like you can look different, you can be different. And I'm able to get to a point now where I've been able to achieve everything that I wanted to achieve. There's nothing stopping you, you
mm,
know?
yeah.
And another thing that's keeping me going is, yo, I'm about to leave a mad legacy behind.
Mm,
I'm so excited for my death, because I'm just like, yo, girl, when you go, yeah, you're gonna leave a mad legacy behind, something
yeah,
that no
yeah.
other bearded chick that's of color, that's got a turban on, a so-called terrorist, a so-called this, that, and the other has done in this life, and you were able to do it. Fam,
Mm.
I can't wait. People, my bullies, their grandkids are gonna be like reading about me in textbooks, things like that. I'm like, I'm gonna be looking around from wherever the hell I'm gonna be after I die. I'm gonna be like, that's me. I did that.
I,
So you
I,
think
I love that
that?
enthusiasm. I love the
Yeah.
energy of that. Okay, so let me ask you this is the last question. I ask this to everybody, uh,
Hmm.
before we wrap up. If you could travel 5 years into the future, what would today's version of you tell the future version of you?
Oh, I don't want to be alive in 5 years.
Well, let's say by happenstance you find more reasons to be alive.
Oh, wow. I want to be able to in what, like personal life, or do you mean work, or
And you know what it is, like, everyone talks about if they can go back 5 years, what they would tell their younger self. What I'm saying is, if you can go forward 5 years, what would you
wow,
tell your older self?
that's difficult, that's so difficult. Um, I definitely want, these are just my wants, just general life wants. I definitely want like a country house with like a mad field, because I want to be surrounded by like guard dogs, Rottweilers. I want to get a few more. My boy's name's Kai. I want to get a few more of him. I want to be able to create a business that where I employ people that are different. I feel like a lot of people out there that have mental health issues, they struggle with finding work where they can sort of stay at that workplace for a continuous,
Mm.
like, long period of time. I want to be able to create a platform where people that are very diverse, very different people of color can come and be employed and find employment and be able to live their life. Because I remember when I couldn't and how much I struggled, went through being broke and things like that. I want to be able to create very diverse campaigns so that everyone feels that there is a space on this earth for them. Slowly implementing that, but COVID is like just shutting it off for just a little bit right now.
Mm.
I want to travel the world. I want to experience different people. I want to experience different cultures, connect to different people. I want to, make sure that my family is good, make
Yeah,
sure that
yeah.
my brother, my parents, that they're just set. Um, but I want to have a continuous feeling of being content even in 5 years time, and like look back, look at my failures, look at all my regrets, and be like, do you know what, girl, you still made it in it.
Mm.
I thought that I was gonna go at 16, and then for 7 years on, I thought I was gonna go at 23.
Mm.
Seven is also हर एक 7 साल बाद वो just सोच रहा हूँ there, like all these things. And then I turned 30 in November, and I thought it was going to happen again, that I was just going to go. And in another 5 to 7 years time, I want to be able to look back and be like, do you know what, bitch, you actually survived. You're a survivor. Like, you survived. I want to keep on surviving. I want to keep on living.
Yeah, I want to say that you're doing much more than surviving. You're thriving, and as I said, like there's a lot of people, whether they're giving you your flowers or not, are finding strength in
Yeah,
your story. And I would ask you to please continue sharing your story any way that you want to share it. Please amplify the stories that you feel are important, because not only are you freeing yourself and helping others through writing your story, but you're really encouraging other people to go in and discover their own, because there's so many people, they don't have to have the same challenges that you face, but
yeah,
they are facing challenges. And there's this quote here from you that I just want to kind of wrap things up with, because I love it so much. I've realized that this body is mine. I own it. I don't have any other body to live in, so I may as well love it unconditionally. And I think, it's such a beautiful sentiment of practicality. We're like, this is what I got.
yeah,
Let me play the cards that I'm dealt. And as you play those cards that you were dealt, you're finding the value in them. And you're
absolutely.
finding gratitude in them, instead of just looking at it as, oh, these were my hard times. Like, now you see
Yeah,
them. And I wrote it down here, especially from when you first started. A lot of the things that may have been considered your wounds are now, your strengths and your medicines. And you mentioned, the traumas, and whether healing them or not, but it's like, they are a part of you. They have informed your decisions. And I'm excited to see, where you take this in the next 5 to 10 years. How big of a community of dream chasers and weirdos and punk rocks and all of that. And just to remind you, just like the embodiment, the,
yeah,
the, the fire of Sikhi is burning strong in you. There isn't an inch of that I think has gone away. I think, if anything, you've cleared up all the brush and all the mess, and just the essence, the flame that is what exists in all of us, that was passed
yeah.
down by our ancestors. That's still there, and that's just manifesting in ways that people don't recognize and they're not comfortable with.
True.
But that's their problem. That's not yours, and you just keep rocking it on. And as a fellow beardo, as a fellow turban wearer, as a fellow tattooed freak, I commend you, and I look forward to seeing you just soar, and just keep making it happen.
Thank you so much. And there's a lot of things that you actually clarified for me in regards to like religion and, like you said, manifesting it in your own way. If anything that I take away from that is that, like, just
Mm.
talking to you, actually having it instilled what my identity actually is, and that I haven't gone away from it. I shouldn't sort of just act it out. It's living within you, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
And you've made the principles of Sikhi your own in your own sort of way, and it's very subjective. And That's like one of the biggest things I'm going to take away from this, because that's actually helped me a lot. I don't think you even understand. Um, but yeah, that blows my mind to be able to think about it like that.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad for that. And as I said, like it's to me, it's ridiculously evident. And I just, as you know, my belief is there's everybody can add so much beauty to this world, and there's so much they these walls are up there, and I don't blame anybody for having these walls. We had to make these walls to protect ourselves. We had to have these walls up when we were kids to save us from disappointment, pain, abuse, and everything. But as you get a little bit older, go back, recognize these walls, voluntarily dive into some of this trauma, put yourself in a good place, have a good meal,
Hmm.
get yourself in a good spot, get that pen and get that paper and be like, all right, today we're talking about what we've been avoiding. And, the Carl Jung quote, which is that which you seek exists in the place you least want to look. And I think as we
Wow.
continue doing that, especially with this warrior spirit that we've been so grateful to have, and this Eastern philosophy that we've been so grateful to be exposed to, that the rest of the world is just picking up now, and it starts with yoga and turmeric, but they're going to get it, where they're realizing that, hey, it's meditation, it's reflection, it's self-awareness, it's all of this. And as we watch collective consciousness really get here and really start breaking these structural boundaries and stuff like that, you know people are gonna require people who are leading with their actions. And you're leading with your actions, even if you never wrote a caption ever again. Like, your story, people see it. People see you walking down the street, they see how you carry yourself, they see your body language, your energy, there's your swag, your everything about all of that, your the fire, your fangs, your teeth. They see all of that, and that's all really important. I want people to understand, like, there's something, a lot of us have been raised to, like, behave. But what I can tell you right now is you're better off telling someone to go suck their mother than to bottle it in and build resentment, because resentment causes evil. It causes a lot of
100%.
destruction on the inside. Vent it out, say some dumb shit, say some ignorant shit. You're better off, and standing up for yourself and being your own best friend. Like, there's so much value to that. So again, and you're modeling that on so many levels, and just please keep doing it. Just, we're rooting for you. Please keep
Thank
doing it. And when
you.
this world opens back up, I look forward to kicking it with you.
Yes, absolutely. Last time we only got to say like a quick hello, hi.
Yeah, I
No.
appreciate you coming to the show. I really appreciate you coming to the show. It meant a lot.
Yeah.
And you got to come to one
Thank
of
you
the
for inviting
Toronto ones.
us.
It was good.
No, my manager and I, we were at the London one, and then we
Yeah.
came to see you in Brighton as well.
Okay,
Um,
you were at the London one too. We didn't talk at the London one, did we?
no, because you had the fire alarm.
We had the fire. It's okay. Yeah, for those listening, the fire alarm went off in the middle of my show. It was about 400 or 500 people in a packed auditorium. And um,
Yeah.
it was a good lesson for me, because I think subconsciously I was telling myself, I was like, okay, I'm doing a bunch of small cities, and then I'm doing the big one in London. So, like, I'll prepare for that. And then what I
Yeah.
realized was, I had way more fun in the smaller cities because it was way more
Yeah.
intimate and had way more
Yeah.
space and room, and I could see faces and I could see stuff. And then B, no matter how much you set yourself up, because I had the people who had organized the tour, the agents, the money people, they came to the London
Yeah.
show. So, I'd put
Oh,
all this additional pressure on myself. The publishers, everybody, all that stuff, they were waiting for the London show. And on
wow.
paper, it looked like, oh my God, like this guy's not even from this country, and he just filled up an auditorium. This is super cool. And just the beauty
Yeah.
of it was, I looked at that fire alarm, because at that point there was already like 7 different issues that had already happened, technical, this, that, what have you.
Yeah.
So when the fire alarm went off, that was that moment of just like laughter. You like, there wasn't an inch of me that could have been upset, because
Yeah.
it was just complete laughter. And there's a voice in my head was just like, look, this is not about what happens to you, it's how you deal with it. And I was like, fuck it. I went
True.
inside, kicked it with everybody, had a lot of fun. Most people, the feedback I got was they loved that fact. They loved the fact that it became a much more intimate show. And then the money
Yeah.
people, the agents, they all loved it too. They came backstage and just like, because the fire alarm went off, because they kicked everybody out, because you went outside with everybody, and it made it that much more of a memorable experience.
Of course. People
And
will remember that show because of the fire alarm.
yes, they will. And again, like it's completely fine. And it taught me a lot. And yeah, no, I appreciate that you were there. And then yeah, I appreciate you came to the smaller ones. And I had so much fun. Like I was telling you before we were recording, like I had so much fun in that. And it was this just like this conversation. There's just these moments of like, okay, you have parts of your life that are, paying the bills. You have part of your life that are really helping the quote unquote brand of Humble the Poet. But then there's these other things that you're doing right now that just that fill you up with tears, that fill you up with fire and energy. Being on stage is one of those things where and at the same time, I was like, shit, this counts as work. Like I'm here and this is work, and I don't have to feel guilty about how I spend my time. And
Yeah.
plus, I get to see all my friends. Plus, I get to travel. Like it was just it was one of the greatest, tours, of my life. And I love touring in general, but you know it meant a lot that you came to the second show and we got to connect and kick it, and there was a lot less people, so
Yeah.
nobody was rushed to go anywhere or be anywhere and do stuff like that. And I know my tour manager, who I didn't know at the time, like the agency assigned it to me, he brought that up a lot too. He's just like, like, wow, like, you're having fun with folks, and I'm just like, what's the point? Like, you know
Yeah,
what
of
I mean?
course.
You know what I
Of
mean? Like
course.
this is the reward. Like this is why people try to do anything in life, is for these relationships and those feelings. So I really appreciate you there. How can the world find you? How do you want the world to connect with you?
Um, well, social media is big,
Hmm.
just at Harnaam God, on Insta, Facebook, Twitter, um, and TikTok as well.
Okay.
In general, just I love connecting to people. I think that's one thing that I take real sort of happiness in.
Yeah.
Like I love being able to speak to people. People are like, "Oh my God, you're so normal." I'm like, "Well, like, yeah, like, come." Being able to
You
not
gotta
just
be
talk.
like, what did you call me?
What did you call me?
Oh, you did. Go suck your
Yeah.
data.
No, exactly. I think, just let's just connect. Like, let's meet up. Like, like how you came out at your London show. Like, I love that. Like, I remember going to certain, speaking engagements that, abroad on one of my tours in 2018. And at the end, I was just like, yo, let's just go and grab a drink. Like, I
Yeah.
love that, being able to connect to people like that. So
Yeah.
just hit me up, just DM me. We're good. Yeah. I think people are afraid in it. They see the following and they think that we're not accessible and things like that. But
A lot of assumptions, no, and I get that. And just for people listening to, it's Harnaam, Kaur, Kaur. Um, there's different spellings for Hanam, but also we'll put it in the show notes so you guys can do it. And please definitely follow her on Instagram, TikTok, and all the other social medias, and just see the spirit of what she's putting out there. The energy is important. And she's got the most beautiful dog. I'm such a big fan of dogs. It's this beautiful Rottweiler, and it's there's a lot of really dope pictures of the Rottweiler on there as
oh
well.
my God, I'm actually gonna like show you guys. Here, he's got his own Instagram as well.
Okay, what's his Instagram?
It's king dot, because he is a king, God bless him.
Yeah.
King.kai.sing.
Oh, nice.
Like the most beautiful. I'm like so obsessed with him.
Handsome, super handsome dog. Look at that. Look at that
Isn't it?
face.
But he's actually going through protection training, so that's him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But then like his temperament's just amazing. Like he's just like the sweetest thing. Like he's taught me so much. And I was supposed to end the podcast, but he's taught me so much just about life and patience and putting in time to, in time in yourself to create something amazing and things like that.
Mm.
So training him like has taught me so much, not just about myself, but life in general. Like having a dog has really changed me.
No, no, that's and I think there are no magic pills to life to make yourself feel better. But if there was a magic pill, it's a dog. Buy a
100%.
dog, and the quality of your life will dramatically increase. Like it's ridiculous. It will. It's and I have pushed a lot. I am a godfather of many dogs around the world. And I co-parent a few dogs here in Toronto, and it's
Yeah.
I can tell you I grew up with a dog, and my family, when I go see my parents, I'll take one of my friend's dogs and bring him to my parents' house. And, they'll always say, we don't want another dog. We don't want to clean up after another dog. But what they're really saying is they don't want to go through the pain of losing another dog. But
Yeah.
within 10 minutes, no matter what dog I bring, the dog realizes that these two know love dogs, and they
Yeah.
go back to their old ways. My dad will start eat before he eats food, he'll rip half a roti and throw it at the dog. Even if they're I'm like, this isn't your dog, don't do that. You're spoiling the dog. But it's just this beauty of it. And I'm glad that you're part of that community as well. So yeah. So follow King Kai, king.kai.sing.
Yeah.
Yes, on Instagram. It's just trust me. You want to make your social media better. Just follow good looking dogs. It makes all.
Absolutely.
But again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.